TPO. First order of business, the roll call.
Yes, sir. Michelle Jenkins,
Yes, here.
Mike Williams,
Here.
Brian McCarthy,
Here.
Jonathan Scott,
Here.
Michael English, Robert Fry, Anna Quinones.
This is Anna Quinones. Yeah, I'm here virtually.
Thank you. Laura Lenhart,
Here.
Gina Dew, Bob Campbell,
Here.
Jesus Peraza Garcia,
Here.
Robert Wassam, Frank Koffenauer,
Here.
Jay Collins,
Present.
Jennifer Malone,
Here.
Marcela Jimenez Ramirez,
Here.
Lama Alfasi.
I'm here.
Thank you. We do have an in-person quorum.
Okay, thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comments. Anyone here to speak at public comment in person? Seeing none, anyone online here to speak? Hearing none, we'll move on. Approval of the minutes is the next item. Sure, everyone's reading the same. Any corrections? Anyone care to make a motion to approve?
Bob, you know, make a motion to approve minutes.
Jay Collins, second.
Any other discussion? All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Carries. Next item on the agenda is the Vision Zero Street Study, Sly Avenue, Waters Avenue, and Lisa, is Lisa Silverton? Oh, she's on mine, okay.
Yep.
All right, Lisa.
Okay. All right. I hit share. Now I hit full screen. Let's see.
You can see it.
Okay. Okay, great. Lisa Silva, Hillsborough TPO staff and Vision Zero coordinator. So it's been a little while, so I'll remind you a little bit about these two corridors that we did a Vision Zero street study on. They are both high injury network roadways in the city of Tampa's Vision Zero action plan. They both also have the extra challenge that they're county owned and maintained, but are located in the city of Tampa. So we coordinated with all of the partners on the project. We had 2 Hillsborough County departments participate and the city of Tampa, along with Hillsborough TPO staff. The corridors in mention are Waters and Sly Avenues from Armenia to just past Nebraska for Sly and just past Florida for Waters. Let's see. They're consistent with the Vision Zero action plan. We consulted the Hillsborough County Complete Streets Guide, Vision Zero, TPO action plan, et cetera, when we went out to look at this. Of course, did a crash analysis, as you can see with the different colored dots sprinkled throughout the corridor, that there are many different types of crashes throughout the entire length of them. So it's corridor wide. Crash data. Okay. All right. It's frozen. Oh no. Okay. Somebody want to tell me what is it still the crash slide showing for you guys?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Yay, this one advanced. Okay, here's the different types of them. We looked at the type of day. It wasn't a lighting issue because they weren't just primarily in the evening. We went out to the corridor and evaluated the different distinctions and characteristics and context of the different corridors. Waters Avenue is distinct in that it has transit stops along it. Sly has like the zoo and other big tractors along it. They both had like 28,000 vehicles per day, so quite a bit of traffic, very narrow sidewalks, no bicycle facilities, not a lot of opportunities for crossing the corridor. But it's Hillsborough County roadway, so we followed their tiered plan so that, you know, it's not just a one and done and one recommendation. You could like phase it in and do staging. Of course, with all of our corridor plans, we do public input. Here are some of the notes gathered at 2 of the public workshops, so that we didn't just have in-person feedback. We had an online parallel survey throughout the, you know, for several months. And in that, we asked what you like, what do you dislike, what is missing, what are some key values you'd like to see. That all got synthesized into the evaluation. We had 6 alternatives that got evaluated and compared, including the like no build, do nothing, all the way to a roadway widening or a roadway narrowing. So these 4 were evaluated. There's an extensive list of the criteria that they were evaluated for and their rankings and how they performed in that criteria. Then kind of group that into the key differentiators, you know, the complete streets, 2 lanes versus 1 in the same direction. The turn lanes were, left turning was a crash consideration. So that was in there, the pedestrians and the ability to stage, all that got synthesized into a ranking and evaluation total as well. The 3-lane option performed best on that. It also performed best with the community. Oh, it froze again. Hopefully it catches up. My worst nightmare. Okay, here we go. So here's the 3-lane option showing like, whoops, I gotta go back. Okay, yeah, the 3-lane one performed the best. Here it is with its overall, like the street trees, buffers, crossings, refuges. This helped it with the weaving, the queuing, the left turns. There's lots of businesses and driveways along there, lots of residential as well, a lot of side streets. So that's final. Let's see, oh, it's going backwards, sorry. All right, here's the first, see, this is the tier 1, so just some restriping, maybe a few bollards to like delineate those median crossings. And then this would be its full on like tier 3 redo one day. Some other techniques in the toolbox that are recommended for consideration are lowering the speed limit. Speed is always a very significant factor in the crashes. So also, if you consider redesignating it not a truck route, that would help reduce the traffic counts and the desire to go on the roadway, maybe a different functional class. While we were out there sitting in this, both corridors come up to and near or cross over I-275. Sly has its own interchange. Waters is served by Bird Street. Our consultant identified that since the ramps and getting to and from the ramps and using this as a thoroughfare instead of what Waters and Sly historically have been as neighborhood serving roadways, are contributing so significantly to its safety impacts that perhaps with some additional analysis, additional public feedback, and of course collaboration with the Florida Department of Transportation, because they are the owners of 275, that maybe lane closure or the ramp closures would be a great idea for the future. So the recommendation for today is to accept the report with its evaluation of all 6 criteria. The recommended complete street option is the 3-lane, but it's the up to the jurisdictions that own and design and maintain other roadways to determine which option. So that completes the presentation. I apologize, I heard there were some problems with the link in the write-up today. The study is at Plan Hillsborough Vision Zero Street Study, and just scroll down to the bottom, and the current version is always listed there, along with some presentations from some of the open houses, etc. So that concludes the presentation.
Okay, any questions from the committee?
Oh, sorry. Hi, Lisa. Thank you. Quick question for you. Just out of curiosity, why water stops at Florida and not Nebraska?
Because that's where the crash data is concentrated in the high injury network. So the high injury network is not the entire extent of the entire county for waters. It was concentrated from Armenia to Florida. And then SLI had, significant density of crashes between Armenia and Nebraska. It's just how the city ranked their high injury network.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Lisa, this is Mike. I have a question. Particularly on water, did you guys look at, take that and make it a 3-lane like what it's actually shown on the screen there? Did you see, or did you evaluate how that impacts level of service on that road? Or does it impact parallel corridors?
Not in extreme detail. It was perceived, and the professional engineer that is our consultant on this said that with the redesign, the truck route redesignation, and the level of service, that like his reasoning is like when it's difficult to be on the corridor because of the slower speeds and everything, that the traffic will go to the parallel roadways, so Bush and Hillsborough and some of the other roadways. He has the same reasoning on the ramp closures. If you close it, even temporarily due to a catastrophe or the weather or maintenance, that people find alternative routes. And he felt that, that would occur on Slyer Waters. It was just a planning level concept study, so not a total detailed traffic analysis. It's my understanding the city of Tampa would prefer a little bit more traffic analysis before selecting this option.
I think that's a good thought or a good idea. And obviously I understand this is what it is, but if the thought is it's going to keep moving forward, I think some more traffic analysis and what it does to parallel corridors, because you're right, people find the path of least resistance, but in the corridors you mentioned, they're pretty busy corridors too. So, okay, any other questions? Right, so seeing none, we have a motion.
So this is Jay Collins. I'll make a motion to accept the Vision Zero Street Study for Sly and Waters.
Jonathan Scott, second. Okay. Motion by Ned, and second by Jonathan. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. All right. Thanks, thank you, Lisa.
Thank
Next
you.
item on the FY 25-29 on the TIP, our Transportation Improvement Program update. Yes, wait.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Wade Reynolds, TPO staff, and I'm here to present the fiscal year 25 through 29 Transportation Improvement Program update. So a bit of information to decode the TIP. The 25-year LRTP, which we are currently, the one we operate under is 2045 right now. We're updating to 2050 this summer and fall, is very broad and visionary and sort of sets the stage for the 5-year TIP, which is updated annually. It is specific and accurate and includes all of the spending program for the next 5 years. So what is required for adoption? It must be consistent with the LRTP. It's developed in coordination with DOT, HART, and the other jurisdictions. includes regionally significant projects, highway and transit projects that are funded by FHWA or FTA. It has to be cost feasible. It has to be developed in consultation with the public, which is part of our committee process. And it needs to have a criteria for prioritizing projects. So what projects are in the TIP? Table 1 is existing priorities funded for construction. Table 2 is candidates for new funding. So what those priorities are for the future. And Table 3 is all other projects funded within the next 5 years. So where do these projects come from? Projects on Table 1 are priorities of the community and have received some construction funding. Priorities remain on this list until construction is complete. Table 2, priorities on this list are considered priorities of the community. The rank corresponds to the anticipated effect each will have on a specific area of performance, which we will get to more later. And projects remain on this list until they are funded. Table 3, projects on this list include FDOT projects, local jurisdiction projects, and planning studies and other projects that are not easily classified. The local projects are included for coordination purposes, but aren't required to be in the TIP, and the TPO does not control which projects are funded with local dollars. So how are the priorities ranked? The jurisdictions submit lists of projects to be added to the priority list every year. We have over 100 projects on that list. The TPO categorizes those projects into our 5 investment programs, and we find the data and evaluate the impact of each project based on the prioritization criteria we have for each funding bucket. And we analyze and rank each project among the other comparable projects. So how are the projects funded? For each priority, we suggest a funding source that best matches the goals of the project, jurisdiction, or facility type. And capital improvement programs are typically funded with local dollars, so the TPO doesn't control these projects or suggest funding types for them. So highlights from the updated tables. Table 1, existing priorities funded for construction. We have added under state of good repair and resilience, the hard CAD AVL system replacement, hard bus replacements, and bus stop capital repairs. Under Vision 0, McDill Avenue from West Kennedy Boulevard to Main Street, although I am informed that the limits of that project are actually going to go further south than Kennedy a couple of blocks to Platt, I believe. US 41 from Idlewild Avenue to Paris Street, Fowler Avenue from Florida Ave to 56th Street, 78th Street from Causeway to Palm River Road. And under real choices when not driving, we have the South Coast Greenway overpass at Big Bend Road and the Plant City Canal Connector Trail Phase 1. For major investments for economic growth, US 41 south of Pendola Point, Big Bend Road, the remaining area there that has not been completed near I-75. I-4 from west of I-75 off ramp to Mango Road. And the Suncoast Parkway south of Van Dyke, from south of Van Dyke Road to the county line, which is funded after 2029. And I know you will hear more about that project later today. Under a couple more projects in those, under Vision 0, we had Fletcher at 15th Street, State Road 60 at Horton Road, East Alexander Street at Jim Johnson Road, and Park Road at Cornett Road and also Brick Street. We also had some additional major investments projects. I-275 from Howard to north of the Hillsborough River, that is part of the TV Next program. I-275 southbound off-ramp to I-4 north of Flora, Nebraska to west of 21st Street ramp widening. That is part of the downtown interchange project. And I-75 at Gibsonton Drive diverging Diamond interchange. That is a basically complete rebuild of Gibsonton Drive and the I-75 interchange. So in Table 2, candidates for new funding, we had under State of Good Repair and Resilience, we added bus replacement and bus maintenance midlife overhaul. Repair and replacement of the hard heavy maintenance facility is a priority. Bus stop capital repairs is a priority, and the heart radio system replacements. Under Vision Zero candidates for new funding, we added Bush at Himes, Florida Avenue at Bears, State Road 674 from US 301 to County Road 579, that is in the middle of Waimama. US 41 at Sunset Lane, a pedestrian signal at 56 in Sawaha, a request of Temple Terrace. US 92 at Gallagher Road, Waters Avenue from Armenia to Florida, West Shore Boulevard from Gandy to Kennedy, and Cy Avenue from Armenia to Nebraska. Under Smart Cities, there were several projects added to that list. Bayshore Boulevard at Euclid and Rome, McDill Avenue at Green Street, North Boulevard at Laurel Street, and Alexander Street at Baker, Venota-Sassa, and Reynolds. Also Columbus Avenue at Rome, and Himes Avenue at Beach Street, and North 56th Street at 113th. Under Real Choices When Not Driving, new candidates for funding include Spruce Street Ditch Closure and Trail. That is basically Spruce and Dale Mabry, or just west of Dale Mabry. If anybody has been to Highlight, or I'm sorry, Highlight Cigar City, right across the street from that. 7th Ave from Ola to Nuccio Parkway. That is basically Armature Works to Ybor City. Tampa Citywide Bike Network, part of the city's RIA grant. Brightline Station Multimodal Connections, which obviously is a very important project to keep our eyes on and to look at how that will connect to the overall network here as they make their way to Tampa. And the HERT circulator capital outlay and operations. Under major investments for economic growth, we added US 92 to widen from 2 to 4 lanes, Maryland Avenue to County Line Road. That was a request of Plant City. And also added the 122nd Avenue Bridge over the Tampa Bypass Canal, which was a request of Temple Terrace. A summary of the funding in the work program in the next 5 years by project type. The largest category is major investments for economic growth there, the lighter blue. Next is miscellaneous, not easily categorized projects. The pink is the state of good repair and resilience, meaning bus replacements, repavings, things of that nature, bridge maintenance. The orange is real choices when not driving. And then the smaller two categories, the light purplish one is Vision Zero, which we have at about 1.8%. And the smallest category is Smart Cities there. Just a overview of the interstate capacity projects. These are all basically parts of Tampa Bay Next. They are taking place between now and after 2029. The West Shore interchange is in 2030 or 31 for completion. So these will all be happening and nearing completion in that range between downtown and the West Shore interchange. Some other interstate capacity interchange projects. I-4 from Orient to I-75. I-4 from I-75 to Mango. And Gibsonton, the Diverting Diamond interchange that I mentioned already. Some other capacity projects in the tip that are non-interstate. State Road 574 from Kingsway to McIntosh. That is widening from 2 to 4 lanes. Money is programmed in 26. State Road 60 from Valrico to Dover. Construction is programmed after 2029. That's to widen from 4 to 6 lanes. US 41 from Madison to Denver. That is to widen from 4 to 6 lanes. Construction is in 2027. First program on that. And Big Bend Road, this next coming year is programmed for construction funds. Several urban corridor improvements on Vision Zero corridors in the tip. Bush Boulevard, Dale Mabry to Nebraska, Florida Ave from MLK to Waters, Tampa Highland and Violet Streets from MLK to Waters, Tampa/Florida streets from Tyler to Martin Luther King. George Road, from Dana Shores to the Town and Country Greenway. It's a planning study in 2028. I just want to point out that that connects the Town and Country Greenway to the Courtney Campbell Causeway Trail at Skyview Park there. Fowler from Florida to 56th. That is construction in 2026. Twigs from Ashley to Nebraska, construction next year as well. Lotus from Cleveland to Boy Scout in 28. 78th Street from Causeway to Palm River Road is just for design, so that'll be after 2029 for construction. And McDill from Kennedy to Main Street, construction in 2029, as well as Nebraska from Idlewild to Paris, which is coming up soon, 2025. Under real choices when not driving, the Green Spine is funded from Howard to Rome next year. State Road 39/Alexander Street in Plant City is a new sidewalk from James Redmond Parkway to I-4. Fowler Avenue from 56th to east of I-75. That is a trail basically to the bypass canal, which is very complementary. So from USF/Temple Terrace to the bypass canal along Fowler, that's potentially a transformative project as the bypass canal comes online as well. And filling sidewalk gaps in various locations focused on the high injury network. Those are carbon reduction funds that we're working with FDOT to program on the high injury network. So the next steps, we review those priority and funding requests, which is underway right now. Project ranking informs the funding recommendations for programming in fiscal year 30. And FDOT considers those recommendations in their work program segment next year. So milestones, we did make the draft available for the 30-day review. Right now, the draft tip and priority list is being presented to committees for approval. Public notices were published in newspapers. Flyers were mailed to affected areas, over 6,000 of them, I believe, and roadside signs posted. And compliance checks prior to final submittal to FDOT are underway. So here we are at June 3rd, the middle bullet point here. We'll be going to CAC on Wednesday, and then a week from Wednesday is the TPO public hearing. So the recommended action is to recommend approval of the fiscal year 25 through 29 tip and approve the tip priorities. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Any questions? Not very good listening to me.
Yeah, I just had one. For the scoring, I noticed some of them had NAs, and I was just curious to know why they weren't NAs. Give it some type of number value.
There were some that we did not have enough information yet to be able to score them under their individual criteria. I'm not sure exactly which ones might be referring to.
I was just curious, general, from what I saw.
I would have to think about that, but I'll take a look at exactly which ones those are, and I can tell you specifically why one project or another was not scored. Because some we are waiting on additional information for.
Is that additional information going to be ready for the June 12th meeting?
Some of them are not really ready to be scored, but that's a good question. It would depend on the project. Some we may not be able to provide a score for at this time, but because they are requested the jurisdictions, they will still remain on that list.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
Wait, that was a lot, all at once. 56 to the bypass canal. So a trail on one side, is that one of those things where they'll figure it out at that time, or do they already know if they want it on north or south?
They know, and I believe it's mostly on the north. I don't know if you remember Suzanne, but I have seen a presentation on that, and it is known at least in the area towards USF. I'm not sure.
Yes, we can do the north, but there's some utilities that we're trying to work through. So we are coordinating with Brian and Mayor Ross to address the utilities. And that'll try to gauge where we can put the sidewalk.
So
Okay.
for those online, if you couldn't hear, that is, it is hoped to be on the north, but they are working on some utility conflicts and working with the city of Temple Terrace on that.
If I remember last, we're designed for Fowler going on west. So outside of this study, but on west, they were looking at the south side of Fowler for the trail there.
And I believe that that actually gets a wider sidewalk on both sides, if I'm not mistaken, based on the final design for Fowler, but it's been a little while since I looked at that one.
Just something to think about, since that's gonna be a heavily traveled corridor in the future if we do get all of this infrastructure. And really zigzagging across Fowler, even if we dump a whole lot of money in to make it pedestrian safety. That's really the last thing we want to do, is purposely engineer it to where you have to go across it. For a trail. Just my 2 cents.
Thank you, Wade. Good presentation. I just had a quick question, and I probably should know this already, but things on table 2, how do they make their way to table 1, if at all?
They receive construction funding.
Okay,
So that could either be they receive construction funding. We have some recommendations for SU and TA funding. So those projects can make their way forward a little bit. But typically it would be applying for those grant sources, or if FDOT is able to program something through their work program.
okay. And is there anything that the recipient should do? Because I noticed a few hard projects on table 2.
Yes, the SU applications and TA applications that we do every year, some of those are less relevant to HART than to others, but some of the things that HART has in table 2 are sort of on there annually, like bus replacements or other things. So I think we've been funding those to the tune of about 5 million a year. And we try to do that as we're able to annually. So that's one way that some of that can make it from table 2 to table 1. But there are other funding sources. I believe the HART heavy maintenance facility, for example, made it onto the TRIP list. So that's the Transportation Regional Incentive Program. So that would be another potential funding source that it can get to move from table 2 to table 1.
Okay, we'll find out about it.
You'll certainly find out about it if they get funding, but I'm continuing to update those applications annually for those various programs. Or if there's something else you all want to go after, we're happy to assist in helping out with the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hey, anyone else? Okay, we have a motion. Jonathan Scott, motion to approve. Okay,
I'd say that minutes.
motion by Jonathan, second by Marcella. Any other discussion? If none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you all.
That's great. Next item is Access 2050 Plan, County Outreach Survey Results. And
She's online, I
Good
believe.
afternoon. Yes. So, share my screen. You're all able to see that?
Yes.
Awesome. So good morning. My name is Harmony McGee. I will be presenting the Access 2050 survey results. So just a brief overview again of the Access 2050 survey. It had 3 main screens that we asked community members to provide feedback on. So the first screen would have been the priority screen, where they were asked to rank their transportation priorities. The second screen was the funding sources screen, in which they were asked to provide us feedback on how we should pay for the transportation priorities. And then the third screen, which is the major project screen, which allowed participants to choose specific projects they support or did not support from around the county. Now we'll discuss how we spread the word. The survey lasted from January 30th through April 15th. And here are a few of our public engagement distribution methods. Some of our more popular ones were the bus ride-alongs. We also did a few social media campaigns, as well as we partnered with several organizations in the community and provided them with promotional toolkits to help spread the word. In total, we had 45 outreach events. And as you can see, that is the distribution of those events on the map. And the red line indicates the routes that we took on the HART buses. We took a data-driven approach when trying to reach the community, so we ensured that we had multilingual and ADA compliant survey options, and we also did targeted social media ads to ensure that we were reaching all possible community members in an innovative way. So now we'll discuss who took the survey. Our 3 main survey goals were to have a large number of responses with a significant countywide distribution and to ensure that we engage hard to reach communities. Survey responses represent a countywide overview, and our board members will be briefed on district-specific data as well. And if you would like those detailed analysis as well, they are available upon request. For our survey results, we had over 4,600 participants with about 88% representation from Hillsborough County residents. So here is the representation for the residences. The highest proportion of residences were from the orange and blue areas, and the lowest concentrations were in the light and dark green areas. It is important to note that some of the orange and blue areas are more densely populated with residences and or workplaces, meaning more people living in these areas lends itself to more responses. And then here is the representation for the work and school. The survey results closely match the countywide average across all demographics, including race, gender, age, employment, and income. Similar to the other map, the highest proportions of residences were from the orange areas, and the lowest concentrations were in dark green. It makes sense that we see a greater number of survey responses in our central business districts like downtown West Shore, the USF area, but also in Palm River and Brandon. And now we'll move on to the survey results. So the first screen, again, the main screen was the priority screen, in which survey respondents were asked to select up to 5 out of 7 transportation priorities and rank them in order from their highest priority to their lowest priority. So for the results, the highest ranked priorities were newer, faster transit, reduce traffic jams, and maintain and repair existing roads and bridges. For the funding sources screen, survey respondents were asked to approve or disapprove of specific funding sources using the thumbs up or thumbs down method. So for option 1, the community investment tax, the strongest support was for renewing the existing half-cent CIT tax. A slim majority did support increasing the CIT tax to 1 cent. For the gas tax, the strongest support was for maintaining the existing 7 cents per gallon tax. And more than 70% of respondents rejected both letting the gas tax expire and increasing the gas tax. For the transit service, we had the strongest support was for maintaining the existing transit service property tax at current levels. 65% rejected doubling the tax, 85% rejected increasing the tax to the $3 per $1,000 of assessed value. For the express toll lanes, 57% of respondents said they'd like to see new toll lanes on existing highways to manage congestion, but most did not support retrofitting existing lanes to toll lanes. So if there is an existing road with new lanes being added onto it, the community supports tolling those new lanes. For toll roads, 70% opted to keep toll prices the same at all times. If any existing roads get new lanes, the community is supportive of those new lanes having tolls at a static rate. For the other funding sources, the majority of respondents rejected the other sources of funding, with exception to creating an electrical vehicle fee to use charging stations. These results aren't unexpected because to enact any of these would require an act of the Florida legislature. It is also unclear whether revenues would be reasonably available should these funding sources be sought. While this may not be feasible to include within this long-range plan, it's definitely something to keep in mind for future asks of the legislature. For the major project screen, we gave respondents an opportunity to give approval or disapproval on 23 proposed major projects throughout the county. And again, they had the option to use the thumbs up or thumbs down. And for this screen, they did have the option to skip particular projects if they wanted to. For selecting major projects, we developed the survey based on project proposals solicited from each of our local governments and board members. We modeled the projects to see how they would perform from a technical standpoint, and we used this survey to identify whether the proposed projects have support from the community. The survey results will help us to understand whether or not the community wants these projects to move forward. So for the new and modified interchange projects, the greatest number of respondents supported I-75 interchange reconstruction at US 301. A new I-275 interchange near US 41 received slightly more support with 58% in favor. Support for a new I-75 interchange near Harney Road was almost split evenly with half in favor and half against. A new interchange at I-75 near Fort Hammer received the least support with only 48% in favor. For the highway widenings, they received mixed support, with the US 301 elevated extension receiving the most support. I-275 widening received a high amount of support as well. The SR 60 and Lithia Pinecrest Road widening received modest support, and the remainder of the highway widening projects received more disapproval than approval. For the elevated and managed lane projects, they typically mostly receive support from the majority of respondents. The Suncoast Parkway widening was the exception, as only a third of respondents supported it. Across the board, all transit projects receive very strong support, reflecting a high need for increased transit opportunities in the region. This chart shows all of the projects in order of level of support. The projects with only a slight margin of support are circled in red. These are countywide responses, so the level of support varies, which is why it's important that we have the individual briefings to understand better how each district stands out on these individual projects. Here's the additional projects not supported. Now we'll move on to a few comments that we noticed consistently that were received. Of all comments given in the survey, the need for significant improvements in Hillsborough County's public transportation system was the most noted. Hundreds of comments across all screens in the survey indicated the need for improved public transportation and indicated that this was a missing piece in the overall transportation network. Comments asserted that improved transit would address many of our transportation issues in Hillsborough County and the surrounding region, including congestion and safety. Most comments regarding road widening were against the idea. Commenters frequently cited studies that show road widening does not address congestion issues in the long term. There were some comments that supported widening projects, usually referring to specific intersections and corridors. Safety concerns also arose frequently in the comments. Comments in this category were often focused on intersection improvements, as this is where many crashes occur. Frequent comments said that adding roundabouts at appropriate intersections would help reduce crashes or increase safety. Commenters frequently recommended improvements to bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure. This was recommended as a way to reduce congestion, particularly on short trips. Many commenters indicated that they would be more likely to take short trips or commuting on foot or bicycle if the infrastructure was more comprehensive. So what's next? In May, the board received the major projects technical analysis memorandum. So now we are presenting the public engagement technical memorandum per board direction from June to August. Staff will perform a cost feasible analysis based on the chosen projects. Then another public feedback window will open to solicit input on the cost feasible plan. A public hearing will take place on October 16th of this year at 6 p.m. at the County Center for the final adoption of the LRTP. So for today, staff recommends that the TPO, that the board, that you all accept the public engagement technical memorandum. Again, if you would like more specific information or details on the survey results, please contact me and I will be happy to assist you.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Hi, this is Marcela with the Health Department. I just wanted to say that, I took the survey and it was one of the best surveys, like super interactive. So kudos. Would you please, Harmony, be able to elaborate a little bit more on the demographics, who took the survey? I know you mentioned that over 4,000 people did, but can you tell us like, a little bit more about who they were actually, like where their age, their income, their race, ethnicity, and things like that?
Yes, if I could have a moment to pull up that slide. Let's see.
And while Harvey's doing that, I'll say that in the past, we tended to get, and I think this is common, a little greater response from higher income than reflection of the community. But I think she will probably be better able to speak to how some guys and she works out. Thank you.
Are you all able to see that?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So this is a further breakdown of the demographic information. So you can kind of see race and gender information as well as the employment information. It is important to note that for the demographics option in the survey, people did have the option to elect to not provide that information. So there were some people that just elected to not include that information. And all of this information is in comparison to the 2020 US Census.
Yeah, thank you for that. I mean, the health department, we're also conducting our community health assessment, and one of the feedback that we always get in these types of assessments and surveys is that it sounds like the minority groups and the people that don't have a job and the people who actually don't drive or don't have a car, like those voices are not being represented. So I think it's important that our organizations, kind of like, as we continue to do this service and this assessment, keep that in mind and look for ways to actually hear from them, as like the biggest needs are actually those groups that unfortunately we're not, hearing from. Is there like any initiative, or how can we hear from these groups, or I saw that there's gonna be a public hearing later in the fall. How does that look like?
Yes, so as a part of our initiative for the outreach campaign, we did do we used several strategies to ensure that we were reaching out to the harder to reach communities. So we did several targeted social media ads to those communities, specifically in Wamama and also the university area, as well as Progress Village. We also did a few outreach events in collaboration with many nonprofits in the area that target the harder to reach communities, such as the Tampa Heights Junior Civic Association. And so we will be using similar strategies to ensure that they are aware of the public hearing, and as well as the second round of public input.
Thank you.
I would just add that our public participation plan defines many of those activities, and if you're looking for ideas for any survey activities y'all may be conducting with the health department, that's a great place to start.
Certainly. Harmony, this for you, but also for some of the other TPO staff here. If I remember correctly, in years past, we almost had this to where there were like the buckets, you could move funding sources around in your project, and it almost allowed you to kind of be a cook in the kitchen to see what kind of transportation network and system you wanted. And this was very telling because everybody wanted interstate interchanges, some roads widened, lots of additional transit, Jesus, but nobody wanted to pay any additional taxes or fees or anything else for it. And so I was wondering if, in the future, is that one of those things where we should go back to something to say, this is your Christmas list that you've just done, and our current funding will allow you to have 33% of that? Is that something we can look at in the future? And Harmony, I don't think we had questions that went to that to allow us to get to those answers with this survey that
Yes, when we were drafting the survey, we had experimented with something like that in MetroQuest, but I think because of the complexity of what we were trying to ask with some of the questions, it was a little bit harder to use that feature in MetroQuest, but that is something that we definitely want to continue to explore for future input purposes.
Thank
I
you.
don't
Yeah,
know.
a toll road's a toll road, but I haven't seen a toll on an interstate interchange yet. Maybe it's coming.
Did you want more of an answer?
Yeah, no, that's it. Yeah, honestly, I think it'd be interesting if that's something we'll go back to in the future.
In the 2045 plan, we were making the assumption of the sales tax, so we had a little bit more money to play around with, honestly. It looks like this is gonna be more of a trend long-range plan, where we're using the trend funds that we currently have. You saw the responses to people's support or not support for increasing taxes, so it was probably a lot of effort for not much, that's the kind of effort that we would have really needed.
Well, I just think, and I'm sorry, something going on here. I was just gonna say, I think as planners and also for public perception, public relation, if you ask those questions, we still have to be able to be good stewards to the public, to be able to say, if you want these things, you now need to know how much they cost. Just because we ask you the question of, would you support this, doesn't necessarily mean that this is even on the table if you can't actually pay for it.
That's the next part of the long-range plan, is the cost feasibility.
Yeah.
Where, you know, we have that long list of things that we'd like or needs assessment, and then reality comes down to, I'll just make this up, 2 winding projects, or 1 in the year 2050, and, you know, some resurfacing. I mean, it really comes down to brass tacks when we look at our cost feasible plan, and that's the reality of what we can afford in a trend, kind of without adding more dollars. It'd be fun to see the next steps. It'll all come together then.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions? And seeing none, we have a motion.
This is Jay Collins. I'll make a motion to approve the Access 2050 Plan Public Outreach Survey results.
Motion, we have a second.
Jesus, second.
All right, motion by Jay, second by Jesus. Any other questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried unanimously. Thanks to Harmony. Next item on the agenda is vehicular traffic counts report. Topics to be presenting now.
I'm sorry, this is Lauren Brooks. Did you say the next one is the cost feasible financial scenarios?
Vehicular traffic counts.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
So, Dr. Committee, members, this is Vishankar Shivraman, TPO staff, and I'm here to present the Hillsborough TPO 2024 spring traffic counts collection. So I just wanted to tell you pretty quickly the purpose of why I'm here today. The traffic counts helps to track the growth in the county, and it helps to build the TPO's multimodal level of waste database. They form the basis for transportation studies and some of the planning studies. The TPO tries to keep the counts updated every year on a cycling basis, but this year it's been a special year because we haven't had such a comprehensive counts conducted in over 4 years.
And this will help because this is the year when we are updating the LRTP also. So it helps the board to make some decisions based on how these counts and some of the roadways perform. This slide will help you to reiterate why the traffic counts is important. Particular need right now is because some of, as you can see in some of the news media articles, that there has been a tremendous growth in population, which has led to a stress on the transportation network. Tampa Bay has been one of the fastest growing places in this region, and this traffic counts update will help to validate the growth in some of the areas countrywide. This slide will help you to understand, just shows a summary of the traffic counts. Like, as I mentioned in my first slide, this year we have counted over 440 locations within the TPO network. The TPO coordinated with the county and the 3 cities back in last year to get a list of locations that our partner agencies deemed as important to be included in the traffic counts program. Some of the locations were already included in the TPO network. In addition to that, we also included any other locations that which were new that the jurisdictions wanted to be included into a counts program. This project also reflects a partnership with the city of Tampa, who helped to pay to this program and help to count some of the additional locations. This slide is a map of the traffic count locations. They are color coded according to the jurisdiction and also who requested the counts. The counts in red are the city of Tampa locations. The blue are the TPO locations. The newer locations that have been requested by city of Temple Terrace and Plant City, you can see them coded in green and blue, yellowish green and blue. Just wanted to help you understand the methodology of the data collection in this slide. This year, we conducted slides using, we conducted the counts using camera, and there were 48-hour count data included in the locations. They also included the average daily traffic, the peak hour volume, as well as 15 minutes increments with direction. And the counts were collected between Monday and Thursday to get the correct counts. And it also avoided holidays, special events, and any non-school days. If any locations were within a 3-mile radius of the school, they were made sure that they were counted on a school day while the school was in session. The details for the counts are included in your traffic counts report, which is linked in your agenda item. This is a slide that we put together to show some of the images that were captured from the locations, and it helps you to understand how the cameras were set up, how they were validated, and how the counts were collected. The bottom 2 figures images are actually from the count when they were collected for video. And one of them shows a construction zone and one of them shows the intersection, just samples of some of the locations that were counted in the program. And this slide is just a representation for illustrative purposes to show that we collected a lot of data, and some of the definitions would come out of this. The LOS calculations were conducted using the TPO's methodology, and the data was consistent with the methodology that was followed. Just wanted to help you to understand the project schedule. Like I had mentioned, the TPO reached out to the partner agencies back in last year, and we have been consolidating a list of the locations that were to be included in the program and build the database and the locations using that. After that, once we got the locations and we had the list, we used a consultant for the project, which was finished. And the field data collection, after the project was kicked off, the field data collection was done in March 2024. Because they were collected using cameras, they were done very quickly. and the data consolidation was done in April. We went back and forth and did some review and validation. The analysis and the LOS was calculated in May, and the report was presented currently to the committees. In June, we will be presenting to the TAC, the CAC, and the board next week. With this, my recommended action is to recommend that the TPO board accepts this report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you, Vishaka. I have a quick question, just out of curiosity. I noticed one of the pictures you had, it was at an intersection. Did you only count through movement, or did you also count the turn? Like, did you do the whole thing, or do you only care about through?
I believe we counted all the movements, but I have brought here if you will just right now in the standard.
I'm Rob Kersey with Finish. The counts were just done for the volume counts along the length. They were not turning accounts, so it was just the volumes along the segments.
Okay, thank you.
Collaborating were actually some question. Where the stations was meant to?
Those are what was
You're saying you're not capturing turning movement counts. I think the ground from my lecture away. So where the stations placed mid block or?
Yes, they were mid-block. They were not at the intersection. That particular image was from the multimodal level of service counts that we did earlier for the TPO, where we were looking at all movements at specific high injury network locations. So these were standard traffic counts where the description had it offset from the intersection at least 100 feet. Is that, can you take the videos, is it the computer and count the cars then?
yes, but they were also manually reviewed by the team.
Have you done any head counts at these stations?
That's what like Bob had explained. We use the same consultant for the microcounts and modal counts, which was when back in last year when we counted the bike counts. And so the images come out of there, but that was a separate report that is also part of the the entire counts program. But that was a different project. Yeah, those were the 80 locations, and this is the same thing. It's all on the same page. Okay. But it was presented to the committees back in early. I see.
Okay, any other questions? All right, you have a motion?
Lemma FSC motion to approve.
I said any minutes they said.
All right, motion. Second, any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, next item is the Access 2050. This is the possible financial scenarios. I think this, okay.
Yeah.
And I saw more online too.
Yes, already. Go ahead and share your screen.
Sure. Yeah, sorry for jumping the gun earlier. Got really excited to present.
All right, good afternoon, Elizabeth Watkins, TPO staff. I'm joined by Lauren Brooks from ACOM. And big thanks to Jay, because his comment earlier on the public survey about, okay, your priority is new fixed guideway transit, but you don't want to pay for it. This is where the long range plan comes for action. So I know it's been a long meeting already, but we really need the brain trust of the technical advisory committee to give us some direction on these different financial scenarios. Next slide, please. So quickly do a quick overview of the long range transportation plan. Lauren will then walk through the revenue sources and funding trends, meaning which programs and projects get funded in the LRTP. and then get to the meat of the discussion of the various financial scenarios that we've developed for your feedback. So a little bit about the long range plan. Over the past 6 months, you guys have heard different needs assessments coming through. And these have all been critical components to building this long range transportation plan. It's visionary, it's a big picture. We only specifically list a few of those major projects because it's required by the feds, but it also helps set our vision for Hillsborough County of what we want for transportation. And as many of you know, there's lots of discretionary grants out there. It being individually listed in LRTP does give it a bit of an advantage when municipalities go after those discretionary funds. All right, so the cost feasible plan. All that really means is what can we afford? So you've seen many different needs assessments come through. Okay, if we tripled our investment in safety, and minimizing congestion, could we lower that percent of travel time, or could we increase travel time reliability? Kind of presenting these trade-offs for our vision for the future. So what this scenario exercise did is it compiled all of those needs assessments and those trade-offs based on the projected reality of funding, because the dollars only go so far. And as I know, most of you know, they're not going as far as they used to be. I think a mile of sidewalk can cost $1 million. A new traffic signal can cost, $500,000 to $1 million. So we have to be very strategic about what types of projects get funded. So we use those two inputs to present to you some draft cost financial scenarios. So we're going to take your input, the input from the survey, the input from the board and committees, and ultimately come to the cost feasible plan. And just as a reminder, we talk a lot at the TPO about our project categories, good repair and resilience. So what we mean by that are, resurfacing, maintaining our bridges and roadways, Vision Zero, safety projects, new sidewalks or bike lanes, smart cities, means intersection improvements or any kind of ATMS. Real choices when not driving is local bus service, trails and greenways, and transportation service. And then major projects are those capacity adding projects or fixed guideway transit. So, a transit service that stays on a dedicated route where they've got capital stations that are not movable. And then within the long range plan, the major projects we really focus on because those have to be individually listed. But I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Lauren, where she's going to go through all the fun stuff of the revenues and the scenarios.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So Elizabeth mentioned that a revenue forecast is one of the inputs to the financial scenario exercise. So if you all may recall, these were the various sources that we explored as we prepared that revenue forecast. The sources shown as gray bars are the existing sources. So federal, state, and local existing sources, they equate to about $13 billion. Everything shown in blue and orange are potential local sources. So, like off-street parking or increasing the HART ad valorem. So we looked at numerous potential sources, but we ended up just including those that are shown in blue in the sense that they seemed a little bit more reasonable to be able to move forward. All will require either a referendum and/or state legislative action. So the blue just seemed a little bit more reasonable to move forward. And these included the renewals of the community investment tax, the 9-cent fuel tax, the first local option fuel tax, and then the enactment of the 5-cent second local option fuel tax. So I know I don't have to tell this group, but not all projects can be funded by all available revenues, right? The revenues, we're constrained by the revenue sources in the sense that they each have their own rules and regulations. So therefore, there's eligibility requirements. So this is kind of a snapshot showing what projects can be funded by our existing revenue sources. It's important to note that We did not change these in any way as part of the financial scenario exercise. They're, you know, they are what they are. They're set by policy. And we did not change any of the existing revenue forecasts or, sorry, revenue source allocations. And I'll get into that in a minute. Where those four potential sources that I mentioned before, the renewals of those 3 fuel taxes, and then the potential addition of the new second local option fuel tax. We determine the eligibility based on, again, policy that is in place today, but of course, this could change based on different policy directions. So I just wanted to make you all aware that this is how we allocated things, but of course, this could all change. This really shows a snapshot or a breakdown of how transportation funding is being allocated across the different project categories countywide. It's important to note that FDOT has the largest pot of transportation funding. So this is one of the reasons why the major projects category is quite bigger compared to the others. That's really because FDOT's funding plays a larger role in that. A lot of the local funding is concentrated on projects pertaining to good repair and resilience. So resurfacing projects, you know, bridge maintenance projects, stormwater improvement projects, those types of things. I did want to note that these pie chart allocations, these really formed the basis for how we allocated all of those existing sources. So again, those sources shown as gray bars in the bar chart I just presented. We followed this trend spending pattern, if you will, and this remained constant for all of the financial scenarios. Was there a question? I'm sorry, I thought I heard. Okay, never mind. All right, so moving on. This hopefully this will help you. It helped me a little bit in that there's, you know, lots of components. So these are all the elements that kind of composed the financial scenario or each of the financial scenarios. So Elizabeth mentioned the needs. Those were established through the various needs assessments that were prepared as part of the LRTP. Again, the trend is really just our existing needs. If we you know, continue to invest how we're investing today, you know, how would that look? The performance level needs are really what came out of those needs assessments. And this is important. You know, how are we achieving our performance objectives and our performance metrics? And I'll get into that in a minute. So if we add new transit service, if we increase the frequency of how, you know, how often we resurface a road, what, you know, how does that look? The expenditures, again, think of that pie chart I just showed. That's kind of what we're doing to meet our transportation needs. And then the revenues are that the support of, you know, those investments. So how we're achieving those investments. Again, just to reiterate, we did not manipulate any of the existing sources for the different financial scenarios. Those followed the trend spending. Those remained constant for each of the scenarios. But for those 4 potential sources that I mentioned, the renewals of those fuel taxes and that new fuel tax, those are the ones that we manipulated for each of the different financial scenarios. So again, each of the needs assessments, you know, they were based on performance outcomes that are measurable, and these are those metrics. So really, the financial scenarios served as straw men in the sense that we tested the allocation of funding to see how well we achieved these performance metrics, in a sense. So these are the different types of financial scenarios that we explored. We had 2 low funding scenarios, meaning we did not incorporate those potential local funding sources. We just used existing funding sources. And then we had our high funding sources where we did incorporate those potential funding sources. And again, this is where we mixed and maximized those funding sources to see if we could achieve a certain level of performance or meet those performance level needs that were identified in the needs assessments. Let's see. So, and again, I mentioned this before, but the financial scenarios really served as straw men in terms of us better understanding the financial trade-offs and outcomes per scenario. And we are going to focus on the ones that are highlighted. Again, we have results for all of them. It's just going through each of them could be quite time consuming. So we're just kind of focusing on some of the main outcomes. All right, so this is the first of our low performing financial scenarios. This is our baseline scenario. So again, not adding any additional funding sources, just using our existing funding, looking at our existing needs. How would we achieve our performance metrics, if you will. So essentially, we're balancing our needs with our revenues. What we put in is what we get out. So nothing spectacular here. So the next financial scenario, again, this is another low funding scenario. While we didn't change any of the investment percentages, again, think of that pie chart I showed earlier. We did look at the performance level needs, and basically, we were trying to determine how well existing sources, could fund and meet the performance level needs for this particular scenario. So we used a pain graph, if you will, or a pain scale, and this is kind of how it pans out. So we have a lot of frown or sad faces. So you can see the outcome of this scenario. We're not really doing a very good job meeting our performance level needs across the different project categories. We have quite a big unmet deficit, if you will. So this is the first of our high funding scenarios. This is where we added in those potential sources. And in doing that, we basically, and we were also looking at the performance level needs, but really for this particular scenario, we mimicked how the potential sources would be allocated based on our existing sources. So again, think of that pie chart. We just had additional sources that we spread across the different project categories following that trend spending pattern, if you will. So again, based on our pain scale, a lot of those frowns turn to neutral, if you will, so the yellow faces. So again, we're doing a little bit better in terms of addressing our performance level needs across project categories. So for scenario 7, this is where we, again, it's one of our high funding scenarios where we accounted for potential local sources. And this is where we mixed and maximized those sources to be able to fund highway projects under the major projects category. And then any surplus funds went to fixed guideway transit projects, which was another subcategory under the major projects category. And then we allocated everything else, all remaining funds, based on trend spending. And again, all based on performance level needs. So as you can see to the right, compared to scenario 2, some of those neutral faces have now turned to sad frown faces. However, the non-SIS or local highway projects, and again, we really focused on the non-strategic intermodal system and local highway projects for this particular scenario, because the strategic intermodal system facilities pretty much take care of themselves through the Florida Department of Transportation's SIS cost feasible plan. So as you can see here, though, for this under this particular scenario, the non-SIS highway projects sad face turned to neutral. So we're doing a little bit better job in terms of addressing our local highway project needs. And again, with the addition of the potential new sources, we generated about $3.6 billion in addition to potentially fund local highway projects. These are just example local highway projects that could potentially be funded under this particular scenario. Again, none of these are set in stone. This is just for illustrative purposes only. But, bottom line is if we concentrate our funding on this particular category, of course, we can likely fund more local highway projects. But we can still fund some, I think, local highway projects under the other scenarios. It's just, it won't be as many. Scenario 8 is similar to scenario 7. We just swap highway projects with the fixed skyway transit projects. So again, under this particular scenario, we're looking at the performance level needs. We've added in our potential local sources, and we have mixed and maximized those to fund our fixed guideway projects, with any surplus then going to local highway projects, and then any remaining going to, being spread based on trend level spending. So the results for this scenario are quite interesting in the sense that they're exactly the same as scenario 7. And this is partially due to the fact that we were only looking at 4 new potential sources. But if you recall, under the scenario 7, we had about $3.6 billion in additional revenue sources. For this particular scenario, we only have $1.3 billion in potential additional revenue sources. And that's really due to the fact that the community investment tax, as of today, is not used on fixed guideway projects. So of course, that can all change. That's a policy decision, but that's really why we didn't move the needle, so to speak, on addressing needs under the fixed guideway transit scenario. Again, these are just example fixed guideway transit projects that could, partially or fully be funded potentially under this particular scenario. Again, the funding of these projects is more limited under the other scenarios. So this is a snapshot of the outcomes of all of our financial scenarios. Again, we can give you guys more details on the others if you would like. But you can see that under scenario 2, we have a lot more neutral faces than we do sad red faces. So again, this is the scenario that I think performs the best in terms of addressing our performance level needs across the different project categories. So we have talked to all of our agency partners. We obviously performed our financial scenarios, our preliminary financial scenarios. So we're here today to kind of share the results of this preliminary exercise with the hope that we'll get some feedback to be able to refine them, maybe coming up with 1 or 2 hybrids or one, really refined type scenario to then move forward to perform, the cost feasible plan, and then wrap everything up by August. So again, I know you guys have seen this timeline, I'm sure, a million times, but just the goal of the TPO staff is to present the plan, the LRTP, to the public in August, September timeframe, with adoption in October. So again, we're here today to I guess first get your feedback on the potential local revenue sources, whether or not those should be included. And really by answering this question, that will, provide direction on this next question. So I guess we'll leave it at that. Elizabeth, do you want to maybe lead the discussion?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this is the part where we really would love to hear from y'all from where you sit. So as you saw through Lauren's presentations, a number of those scenarios include revenue sources that are going to expire over the life of this plan. This is a 20-year plan through 2050. So as you guys know, the CIT it's going to sunset in 2 years. It's going to be on the ballot this November for an extension. Is it reasonable to assume that that continues based on what you're hearing with your agencies? And then the same question about the fuel taxes. Is anybody would be willing to share their insight from where they sit? It would be really valuable to us.
Oh, Vivi, I have a question first. You mentioned the CIT renewal and all that. What was the assumption in that as far as how much it had to be used for transportation? Because I don't believe in any scenario where 100% of that would be for transportation.
No. And that's a great point. So for those of you who don't know, the CIT can be used on a variety of public purposes, transportation, parks, fire, and safety. Historically, about 50% of Hillsborough County CIT has gone to transportation. So that's what we have assumed in this.
That's fair.
Okay.
I mean, for me.
Yeah, right.
It seems unlikely to me that our board, the Florida County Commissioners would pursue the additional gas tax. They don't have today in the CIT. It seems like maybe one or the other. Obviously, right now the CIT they decided to put it on the ballot. If that doesn't pass, maybe they will go for the fuel tax thing. But I really don't think it will be both, just based on their history. Obviously, that could be involved, but it seems unlikely.
That input is really valuable. And not only is it that section option fuel tax that you're talking about, but the 9th cent and the existing local option fuel tax, those are expiring. And just a few years ago, those could be approved by the BOCC, but due to state statute changes, those now have to be approved by the BOCC and then go to referendum. So I appreciate that insight on the second law. And if anybody has thoughts on the current fuel taxes, I'll also be very interested in that.
Yeah, I think the board, if they exist today, I think they vote to keep them and recognize them, they have to go on the ballot and who knows what happens then.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Lauren. As for taxes, I don't know, I can't provide much input there, but I would hope that we at least renew the existing. Not getting my hopes too high on adding new taxes. I had a couple questions on the presentation. So I noticed that in every scenario, paratransit was a yellow neutral phase. So I was curious about that and like where those revenue sources come from. And then, oh, sorry, go ahead with that one first.
No, I'm sorry. I can answer once you're done. I apologize.
Oh, no, oh, okay. Bus transit, I noticed it's sad phase throughout. I was curious to see if that was like maintaining existing, or is there like an assumption of increased level of service?
Great question. So the paratransit, there are set funding sources for paratransit. So the Sunshine Line allocations those went directly to paratransit. For the bus transit, you're right. And I'm sure Elizabeth can explain this a little bit more, but the performance level needs were pretty high for those. So again, based on how we're kind of allocating our funding sources today, the majority of the funding is going towards good repair and resilience, Vision Zero. So while some is going to, the real choices while not driving project category, it's not enough to cover, I guess, the needs. So why they're the sad face and the more neutral face, because it's just we were kind of basing it on reality of, well, this is how this is how we're spending today. Is that going to change? So we can certainly change up the assumptions. It's just we were trying to, I guess, stay conservative.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you. So it sounds like the bar was set pretty high for bus transit, like in terms of increased level of service. That's why it wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, so in that performance level, we used Hart's vision plan from one of the TDQs, and I think it had like 15, like a lot of 15-minute service all around the county. So it was a very.
Okay. Thank you.
Jennifer Malone, I think that based on the history of what's happened over the last 2 years, we should be planning for continuation of existing spending levels, given the political dynamic in the VOCC right now, as well as we still don't have a funding source over the last couple of years. I think I understand that this is not the first time this has come before, been a question to this committee and to the TPO. So if you ask for my brain power at 3 p.m. on a Monday, that's what I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Warren. And there's no voting on this one, so appreciate your presentations today.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it.
Next on the agenda is Spanish Coast Parkway community study. And this is Michael's.
Thank you. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Michael Guru and Kimberly Horn, a consultant to the Florida Turnpike Enterprise, who are also with me here. Today, we are here to give a project update on the Suncoast Parkway EDD study from Van Dyke in Hillsborough County up to State Road 52 in Pasco County. So the information that we're going to be providing today, we're going to start off with a study overview, talk about the typical section that we're looking at, interchange modifications, and then conclude with the study schedule and provide information about the upcoming alternatives public information meeting that we're going to be hosting at the end of this month. So the limits of our PDD study, as I mentioned, start at Van Dyke Road, milepost 13 on the Suncoast Parkway in Hillsborough County, and goes all the way up to State Road 52 in Pasco County. Within the study limits, we have 5 existing interchanges, 2 of which are in Hillsborough County. And then we also have, just for informational purposes, we're looking at 1 potential new interchange at Rangeland Boulevard. That's in Pasco County, just north of State Road 54. Also want to mention that this project Suncoast Parkway is a toll facility. And so this project would be funded by toll revenue, bond funding, and not tax dollars. So a little bit about the project development process. We are currently in phase 2, which is the PAD study, phase right before we go into design, and then into right-of-way acquisition and then to construction. So as part of the PAD study, we're going to be looking at existing conditions, identifying the future traffic needs, developing alternatives to address those future traffic needs, and then conducting environmental and engineering evaluations At the same time, presenting the information and the findings and taking public input during the process, and then before we ultimately come up with a study recommendation. As part of our scope for future traffic conditions, we are looking at the year 2050 as using that to identify mainline capacity needs, what modifications we need at the interchanges, as well as looking at the, as I mentioned before, the new interchange at Rangeland Boulevard, and then addressing or assessing the environmental effects of the project. The need for this study is based on a variety of factors. Number one is we're looking to accommodate future traffic demands. As I mentioned, year 2050 is our design year that we're looking at. As part of the project, we're looking to enhance safety, improve travel time reliability, and as well as enhance emergency response and evacuation times. So based on the traffic assessment conducted so far, for the segment from Van Dyke Road to north of State Road 54, we have identified the need for 6 lanes now. So this portion of the Suncoast Parkway within Hillsborough County is currently 4 lanes, so 2 lanes in each direction, needing 6 lanes now. And then we have identified the needs for 8 lanes by 2040. North of that into Pasco County, beyond State Route 54, we're showing the need for 6 lanes in 2030 from 54 to Ridge Road, and then by 2035 from Ridge Road to State Route 52. This graphic represents the graphic on the top represents the existing typical section. As I mentioned, the Suncoast Parkway is a 4-lane facility, 2 lanes in each direction. Within this segment in Hillsborough County, we have about 300 to 400 feet of existing right-of-way. This typical section in the bottom shows a proposed condition, the ultimate 2050 condition that shows 8 lanes or 4 lanes in each direction. I should also note that the Suncoast Trail is an important facility that parallels the Suncoast Parkway, and that begins at Newts Lake Fern Road, just close to the boundary of Hillsborough and Pasco County. We are looking at multiple interchanges along the corridor. I'll focus for today's presentation on the 2 within Hillsborough County. That's Van Dyke Road and Newts Lake Fern Road. So at Van Dyke Road, we have a diamond interchange configuration, and essentially we are looking to add turn lanes to that existing configuration, so no major modifications at this interchange. We're also looking to extend add a turn lane in the westbound direction from the southbound off-ramp to Bramblewood Road. We've also been coordinating with Hillsborough County engineering staff as they are currently underway with a design project on Van Dyke Road. As part of that project, they're including a shared use path that's noted there in yellow that goes through the south side of the interchange. As part of the Turnpikes project, we would also provide a shared use path on the north side through the interchange. At Newts Lake Fern Road interchange, we're also just making some minor modifications, turn lane improvements, as you can see there from the eastbound to northbound on ramp and the northbound off loop ramp to go westbound on Newts Lake Fern Road. Also adding some storage link to the existing turn lanes on the west side of the interchange, as well as adding adding shared use paths through the interchange itself. As part of the P&E study, there's also an environmental component. So we'll be looking at the social, cultural, natural, and physical environmental features of the project as we develop the engineering alternatives. We're going to be looking at each of these categories that would help us make an ultimate decision. And all of these issues will be documented in our P&E study. This is the study schedule. We began the study last year, and now we're moving forward to a public information meeting that's scheduled later this month. I'll provide a little more information on that. Ultimately, we'll get to a public hearing early next year, 2025, and then plan to complete the study around this time next year in 2025 in the summer. As I mentioned now, we're planning on hosting an alternatives public information meeting. The virtual component of the meeting will be held on June 25th at 5:30 p.m. And then we're gonna host an in-person meeting on June 27th. That will take place at the Hilton Garden Inn, just off of State Route 54 interchange. And of course, all the project information and all the boards and all the videos that we're going to plan to present at these meetings will be on the project website as well. And so with that, this is the contact information for the Turnpike, COC Vine, who's the MPO liaison, and Anil Sharma, who's the project manager consultant to the Florida Turnpike Enterprise. Their contact information is shown on the slide. And just to end today's presentation with the safety movement, we're in June, and June is Safety Awareness Month concerning motorcyclists. So just be aware when you're out there driving. So with that, I will open it up to any questions.
Thank you. Questions?
Oh, no, they've been coordinated with the county at multiple meetings. Well,
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
I have one. Thank you. Is there any, like, it looks like it goes through a nature preserve. Is there any like right of way acquisition gonna happen, like a Burger King or something?
The nature preserve, are you referring to,
Yeah, I meant like,
the Starkey Wilderness Preserve?
yeah, like, I mean, it seems like there would be no right of way acquisition there, but I was wondering in other segments of the interchange, or sorry, the project,
Yes.
are there parts where there would be right of way acquisition like businesses or?
So right now, we are not anticipating any business or residential relocations. However, we do have some right-of-way needs. For example, within Hillsborough County, we have 2 quarter-acre slivers that are needed to accommodate the widening. This is the segment between Bramblewood Road and Slakeburn Road. They're both, one is on one side of the Suncoast, the other on the other. And then the other part where we need right of way is about 6 acres, 6 to 7 acres for the Rangeland Boulevard interchange that's in Pasco County. That would be near the Starkey Wilderness Preserve that you're seeing there on the map, but it's on the other side. It would not impact those.
Oh, thank you.
Any other question? Are there next phases funded? Good, like it's design funded. So it's residents funded.
I can speak to that, the design for that, I'll come up. So right now, what Michael presented as the project for the PDNE, as we proceed to the design, the project will be segmented into four segments. So the southern segment, which is from milepost 13 to milepost 17, county line, that has a design funded and the 5-year work program, just one. So design is funded and the 5-year work program for the south segment, first portion. That's it.
Thank you.
Good.
Any other questions? I think we appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're on to old new business. Wade has an item.
Yes, I just wanted to introduce Elizabeth Watkins for anybody who has not met her, although she just presented to you. So Elizabeth will be taking over as liaison for the TAC starting in August. I'm not going anywhere, but just stepping back from Lane, it's going to take on this role, so.
Thank you. Any other old or new business? We don't have, right, we don't have much of that maintenance.
That's right.
And so could you call this meeting, because it takes over for your next meeting? Okay. Well, it's other business, and we adjourn.
Thank you.
Good to see you.